Hello, everybody. My name is Israel Rodriguez, and I will be talking about John Keats. Born October 31st, 1795, in London, England. He was the son of a humble livery stable keeper, but he lost his father when he was only 8 years old, and because of this, he had little to no formal education growing up. 6 years later, his mother dies of tuberculosis, foreshadowing John's own early death. After his mother's death, a prosperous tea broker named Abby was appointed his legal guardian. She wanted John to be a doctor, so she got him into an apprenticeship with a surgeon. He performed his apprenticeship in London Hospital for 3 years, but in 1811 he abandoned his studies in pursuit for his true passion, poetry. His first mature work is the sonnet on first looking into Chapman's Hummer, inspired by Chapman's translation of Homer's epic classics the Iliad and the Odyssey. His first book, labeled Poems, was published in 1817 under the help and influence of Leigh Hunt, a contemporary poet who took John under his wing after leaving his apprenticeship. John is considered a second-generation Romantic poet. This means that he was also a contemporary with the likes of Lord Byron. An important poem that's worth mentioning is the famous Endymion, published in 1818, a work that's divided into 4,000-line sections. During this period, John Keats was writing the finest of his works, a collection of odes that up to this day remain one of the most regarded pieces of poetry in the English language. He initially wrote 5 of his odes in 1819 and later added his final ode called To Autumn, a reflection of his admiration for the season and one of the best poems ever written about autumn. This is also the same poem that we will be analyzing a little bit further into the presentation. John Keats died on the 23rd of February 1821 at the age of 25 of tuberculosis. John loved to use a wide variety of literary devices. Of course, he is, up to this date, still regarded as one of the best poets in the English language. So he was adept at and very good at different literary devices. But he was particularly inclined towards the intense use of imagery that he took from the classical Greeks, which he admires. So it's time to analyze the poem. And the poem that we're going to analyze is To Autumn. What we're going to do is that we're going to break down the poem into smaller ideas, smaller pieces, and try to analyze it then. Starting off with the first stanza. Season of mists and mellow fruitfulness, close bosom friend of the maturing sun. Right now, the author is referring to autumn as a season of tranquility and abundance. He's a friend of the dying sun. Conspiring with him how to load and bless with fruit the vines that round the Thaddeus run. And now it's describing how the sun helps the season load the trees with fruits and swirling vines. We can see splashes of imagery and personification as we read these couple of lines. To bend with apples the muscotauch trees, and fill all fruit with ripeness to the core. To swell the gourd and plump the hazel shells with sweet kernel. To set budding more and still more, later flowers for the bees. What it's saying is that autumn fills the trees with so much apples that the trees are bending. And it fills the fruit from within with this ripeness. It swells the gourds and it makes the nuts grow. It also makes flowers grow new buds, something that the bees appreciate. It attracts bees. And then it says, until they think warm days will never cease, for summer has overbrimmed their clammy cells. You see, the bees don't even know that the season is ending, that winter is coming, because they're still overflowing with so much honey. The second stanza begins with, who hath not seen thee of the myth thy store? Which is basically saying that during that time of the year it's impossible to not notice you, you being Autumn, whom the poem is for. So when I say you, I mean the Autumn. And then it follows, sometimes whoever seeks abroad may find thee sitting careless on a granary floor, thy hair soft lifted by the winnowing wind, or on a half-reaped furrow sound asleep, drowse with the fumes of the poppies, while thy hook spared the next swath and all its twinned flowers. And sometimes, like a gleaner thou dost keep steady thy latten head across a brook, or by a cider press with patient look, thou watches the last oozings hours by hours. In that first line, it's saying that whoever goes out and tries to seek you, you will be found by somebody. And perhaps you will be found while you're laying down and the wind is caressing your hair. Or perhaps you'll be asleep because of the fumes of the poppy. And at the same time, your scythe, it will be thrown to the side. It will be just laying there on the side, on that unharvested patch. And sometimes the hours might simply pass by as you watch the machinery that juices the apple. This stanza right here really has a lot of imagery because it really tries to sell Autumn as a person that we can find and we can observe, and we can try and feel how she's feeling with these kind of descriptions. It's going back to the first stanza where it says that it's a mellow, it's a season of being relaxed and chill. The third stanza begins with, where are the songs of spring? Ay, where are they? Think not of them, thou hast thy music too. It's saying that spring is not here, therefore the sounds of spring are not here either. But don't worry, because you, Autumn, you have your own sounds as well. It continues with, while barred clouds bloom the soft dying day, and touch the stubble plains with rosy hue. So not only do you have your own sounds, but you also have your own background that comes with that sounds. It's that rosy hue from the dying light of the sun touching the recently harvested fields. Then it continues with, then in a wailful choir the small gnats mourn, among the river sallows borne aloft, or sinking as the light wind lives or dies. And full-grown lambs loud bleat from hilly bourne, hedge crickets sing, and now with treble soft the red-breast whistles from a garden croft, and gathering swallows twitter in the skies. Now it's including all the sounds that accompany that image that we talked about on the last page. And those sounds include the mourning of the gnats that stay by the rivers, or fully grown lambs that bleat in their own farms. It also has the sound of crickets singing, and the redbreast that whistles in his garden. And finally, the gathering swallows that sing their tune towards the ending of the day. The analysis finale. This is just a wrap-up of that analysis. And it's basically what I feel like it is. It's John Keats expressing his admiration for the season with this amazing piece. It's filled with literary devices, such as the personification of the season and the intense imagery that he used in order to paint this beautiful picture of fall. We're going to analyze or point out some poetic devices that John Keats used in this specific poem. For example, the meter, which is an iambic pentameter. It just means that it has 5 iambs, and the example is right underneath, among the river sorrows borne out. It has personification, and the example, it's actually I use the first lines. It says, season of mists and mellow fruitfulness, close bosom friend of the maturing sun. It's giving the idea that these abstract things, which is autumn and the sun, they're doing things that only humans do, which is form friendships and bonds. And then the other example from a poetic device, it's the fact that it's an end rhyme, and it creates this melody within the poem. The example being, steady thy Latin head across a brook, or by a cider press with patient look. And these are my references where I took the information from, and where I tried to try to get as much information from experts as I could as well, so they could help me come to my own conclusions and help me have more knowledge in order to have my own interpretation of what the poem is and means. Thank you.